This is Moments with Mary. I'm Mary McGrath, the Town Council, and my first guest is Johnny Loreti, also a Town Council. We'll be discussing items on the agenda for the April 8th Town Council meeting. So, Johnny, since you are our guest, which item would you like to talk about first?
Yeah, so it looks like we've got a pretty busy agenda. Why don't we start with the accessory dwelling units, and we could lend some of our comments on that.
Okay, so I saw that they took, they stuck the accessory dwelling units pretty much in the zoning that they use for the in-laws.
Mm-hmm.
So people have talked about certain things, but it's only going up 900 square feet, and if you go over that, you need a special permit.
Mm-hmm.
But it says in there, I didn't know this, that you could have it in the front or rear side of your property. So, and it has to be detached.
Yeah, it does have to be detached. I'm not familiar if it's allowed to be in the front, so thank you for that clarification. But it's important that we have an amendment in our zoning that I think we've been working on since November. Is that right?
Yeah.
And it did basically take what we already have and then kind of amend it based upon what the state is doing, which is effectively, from my understanding, making it a by right to put in these accessory dwelling units. And we originally had 800 square feet. Is that right?
Yes, and now it's 900 feet square. But I did see in this that I hadn't seen before, if you want it larger than that, it is special permit. So I kind of dug deep into a little bit. But like you had said before, when people brought it up, you can't be sold, and there's only one per unit on the lot. And you can't rent it for short term, so I'm guessing that's like a hotel. Yeah.
I think the concern with the short term is the prevalence of Airbnbs and short term rentals, that we don't want people to be in there for short periods of time that could potentially disrupt neighborhoods, of course. I did do some research as to obviously the ordinance that we have moving forward, because what the state has planned out is kind of unclear as to some of the language. So we're making sure that in our ordinance that they cannot be sold off as individual condos or separate properties, which is super important. That they have to abide by water and sewer regulations, so that we can't continue to put stress on our system. And then, as you said, only one per lot. So it seems that it's just basically a slight improvement upon what we already have in our town zoning ordinances.
So the thing I was wondering about, how much do you think this will cost? So say if I put one in my backyard, I got to build it. So now underground, I got to connect my water, my sewer, and my electricity. Mm-hmm. So some of the prices I saw was pretty high.
Yeah, I haven't looked into any of the pricing, but I know that there are some companies that make kind of ready to be installed tiny homes and things like that. So I think it's just going to be a matter of what the utility cost is to kind of run something like this. I've never done the research, but it'd be interesting to see if people are going to go ahead and go with this. I think for a town like us, we're really just going to see in-law apartments, people with expanded families as a way to kind of bring multi-generational living, back into homes. There was a woman, and I'm sorry, I forget her name. She was dealing with some issues last year. You were on the council, but I wasn't there yet. And she was having a really, really hard time just building an in-law for her either her mother or her mother-in-law, because
her in-laws, yes.
Yeah, and it was really heartbreaking to hear all of the issues that she was having with just trying to get this simple in-law apartment built that she really needed, for her growing family. So this should make it a little bit easier for folks, and I think the zoning is written in the right way to not overburden us, and because there are some considerations for parking in there as well.
Yeah, there are some issues that I like to bring up, but I was wondering, because some people think they're going to make a lot of money. How much do you think they can charge to rent? Because I think they can be 1 or 2 bedrooms, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it. Again, I'd have to look at it, but I don't know if there's restrictions on how large in number of bedrooms they can be. I think it's just on the square footage. We'd have to look at what 1-bedroom apartments are going for here in Bridgewater. I imagine they're somewhere in like the $2,000 range.
That's what I was thinking. They're going to go by what the apartments are.
Yeah, I think so, and it depends on how nicely they're built, and hopefully we could do what we can to make sure that they are attractive if they're going to be in people's yards and things like that. But I'd imagine that the cost to put one of these in is going to be pretty high up front, and that people aren't going to just do this as a side income unless they're really invested in that.
That's true. No, I think what you said is a good thing because I did look at those tiny homes, and some of them are actually very beautiful.
They are, yeah.
The thing I'd like to see the town do is maybe give some informational pamphlet to the residents before they start this. Because, I mean, who really knows how to write up a contract? Because now you're renting to someone. So what if you're renting to a stranger? So I think we should do that. And I don't know, could I do a background check on you? Or because you're renting to me, I can do a background check on you? I don't know the law about that.
Yeah, as somebody who used to rent apartments in Boston, I've had background checks done on me, and I don't know what the requirements or the laws are on that. But if I was renting to somebody living in on my property, I would want to do a background check on them, whether that be a full background check or maybe just a credit check. I definitely want to make sure that this is somebody who I could count on to be a responsible tenant.
See, these are some of the things that I know it's not the planning or anybody, but I think as a community, we should help residents. So, so what if my renter gets hurt on my property? Is that liability for me?
Yeah, you have to look into your property insurance, I guess. You may need some sort of an umbrella coverage or something like that. So it's a great point because maybe somebody just throws a tiny home on their backyard and they get it permitted through this process and they're not aware of all the liabilities. So I don't know who we could go to, but maybe we have a workshop for people and then we could record it and put it online so that if somebody's interested in doing this, that they do it in a smart way.
I'd like to see this town take the lead in that because also, I mean, I've lived in apartments, so it's the company that has to clear off my snow. So if I'm in the backyard in a tiny house, now they have to clear off a path so I can reach my car in the driveway.
Yeah, you may have to have that in the lease agreement, right?
Yeah, so I think there's certain things, and can I make now marijuana is legal, so can I make it a drug-free zone in my yard?
I'd imagine if you're the one that's controlling the lease, right? Then you could put that in the lease, and as long as you're not breaking any laws, then you could just put that in the lease that they can't use marijuana on the property.
Yeah. So the renter will have access to my yard then.
Yeah. And then you'd have to have certain provisions in the lease as to the usage of the yard. Can you use my barbecue?
Exactly.
Can we grow plants? Can we grow marijuana?
Yeah.
What are we doing in the backyard? Can I have
a party?
So I think
there can be some issues here. So I would like to see Bridgewater take the lead on that because now that you're having people live that close, especially if they're strangers, I mean, we're gonna have the police come in more often because they're fighting or someone's staying up late, partying in the back. So I think those are the things that maybe, and I know planning board has nothing to do with that, but I wanted to bring that up because I thought maybe we could suggest that and have that.
Yeah, I guess we'd have to figure out who'd be the best folks to kind of take the lead on that education. But we as counselors could help push that forward. Because
we want to protect our residents. So we want to make sure they're fully informed before they go into something like that. Mm-hmm. So what would you want to talk about next? We have the Purple Heart Flag month, and we have a TIF. So we're going to have a developer come and present his development and ask for a tax increment financing?
Yes, I do have some notes here on this one. So for those who aren't aware, a TIF, as you said, is tax increment financing. It's an agreement tool that's used by cities and towns to encourage private investment in underdeveloped or blighted areas. And blighted is a strong word, but if you're familiar with the Friendly's property, which most people are, I would consider that blighted. And I haven't been in town long enough to remember when it was thriving, but it's been that way for how long would you say?
They talk about it like as they were, back in the 1980s. I don't know.
I know it's been probably at least 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
And it's a really difficult site, right? It's the topography, the way it kind of slopes down the hill. It's a real development challenge, and there's a reason why it's been vacant for so long. No one's been wanting to come forward and make the investment in that land. And the folks over that Bob Cormier are working with I think it's Churchill James. Yeah. They kind of came together and put forward a couple of different proposals. The first one didn't necessarily work out. It wasn't in accordance to our form-based code. They listened to the residents and they have now presented something. I don't know if you've seen it yet. But
I got to say, I appreciate that they listened to our zoning board.
Yeah.
And they did for the residents. And I think that outside the residents are going to be very happy with the way it looks. I was impressed.
Yeah, it looks really nice. I think that the town will be really, really blessed to have something like that come in, and it's a tough thing to be the first big project in town with the form-based code and be literally the first shovel in the ground, and to take upon that huge risk. It's a huge financial risk to be able to buy this land and then try to move forward with some investors and then the bank financing. And we all know how expensive it is to borrow money right now, and the cost of materials is up. Everything is really expensive. Right. So I applaud those guys for taking on that risk. So back to that, with risk, obviously we have a ton of money that's going to be put up for this project, and I have the numbers written down somewhere because I am actually in support of this, bringing it forward, putting on the agenda. And they're investing, I think it's like 20 something or $30 million, and we obviously have to invest, take a loan out over time. So what's going to help with all of those costs is by having an incremental increase in taxes. So right now that property is bringing in, I think, $14,000 a year in taxes, which is hardly anything for that size of a parcel.
Right.
And so what these folks are looking for is an incremental increase in taxes over time. And I think the last I looked at it, it's somewhere around like a 9x increase over 15 years, and it's like a 25x increase over 30 years. Are we getting as much as we could if they were paying 100%? Sure. And anybody who's opposed to this, that's the first thing they're going to say. However, no one's building there. No one's built there for a long time. No one's willing to pay 100% of that tax bill right now. So while they are going to be getting a little bit of help over time, we're going to see all of that kind of come back, later on. So they're going to bring in, taxable revenue over time, but it's going to have to increase if this does go through, right, over time.
So to be on the other side of the TIF.
Yeah.
So I look at a TIF when I was looking at it as there's two lanes to a TIF. So the first lane is the tax that is tied to the old property. That will continue, throughout the redevelopment. That will always go. So that's the base value.
Yeah.
So that will stay, and those taxes will continue to go to the school and the roads.
Mm-hmm.
So the increase in the property, the tax tied to the increase in the value, is the tax increment, and this tax won't go to public services. So all that goes will be diverted into like a TIF fund, and I looked into see what the TIF fund would be used, because that will save the developer money. So it will go to prepare the land, demolish buildings, or our soft costs for the surveys, the construction, and purchasing the land. The problem is that all this time, none of that tax money, the increased tax money, will go to the schools. So the problem with, I see that some say, so he got the apartments and it's on fire. So our fire and our police have to go there and they put it out. So he's not paying for the fire and the police to come to put that fire out. We are, the town, because we're only getting that base value. Like you said, it's only $14,000. So once he completes it, we're paying, the tax people are paying for the water and the sewer for his whole development, not him, because he's got that tax increment. So that's why a lot of people don't want that, because I think he's looking like for a 30-year one.
I think it's 15 years.
15. So
15 years. And instead of paying 14, again, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but they think they're going to be paying 21. So it's still going to be an increase over the base value. And then the savings is going to be pushed later on. So we should be still getting $21,000 a year, and then incrementing up from there in year two. In year one, which is a big point to make, is that we're going to get, last time I checked, around $800,000 in permitting and connection fees, and that's going to go right into our operating budget. So that hits us in year one right away before they even put a shovel into the ground. So if this goes through in May or June, we're getting $800,000 check to our town, and I know that could help right now. Again, in year 2, 3, and 4, is there going to be a little bit of a lesser amount than what would be the full? Yeah, but it's going to be $20-something thousand a year just in the property taxes. Now we also have the local meals tax, which right now is at 0.75%. The governor said that we may be able to increase that to 1%. Does anybody like paying more in taxes? But 1% on your coffee or your lunch is not a big deal. But that could generate significant revenues for our town, and it goes directly to our town. And then they're also going to be bringing in more excise taxes because they'll have some vehicles there, parking in those apartments. So some more residents, some more vehicles. They've also done a traffic study. It looks like they're not going to be having an issue with impacting traffic in that area. So overall, I think they're expected to bring in well over $100,000 in additional tax revenue beginning in year 2. So it's a lot more than that 14 right now.
Yeah. The problem is, though, with all that building and things like that, the taxpayer is going to be paying for the water and the sewer and any emergencies that go there, because we're going to be losing so much taxes. And I understand it's difficult. And one of the things someone said to me, advised, if developers asking for a TIF, then there's what is the reason for it? I mean, are they having trouble financing? Mm-hmm. What are they? Because usually TIFs are only used for like Walmart's big boxes. They're not usually used for apartments, because he'll struggle for the first 2 years building it. Mm. But when he opens that up, say at the end of the 2 years, he's going to have those renters already set up in the thing. So he's going to start off year 1 making a ton of money. So
hopefully.
Well, yeah, I mean, if he's going to, but I mean, he has to, because if we gave him a TIF and he didn't maintain enough, then it would go in high water and we'd lose money anyways. Mm-hmm. So it is a gamble either way.
Yeah, I look at it like an investment, right? We are investing in this development. We are saying that we're going to accept less money in revenue because we think this is going to be a viable project, moving forward. Yeah. I think that in this scenario, it makes sense because of the difficulty of the development. We want to see a really nice building go up there, buildings with the commercial development. It is mixed use, so it's kind of a gray area. Like you said, they don't usually do this for residential. They usually do it for commercial. Right. So considering that it is mixed use, it's kind of in between. And I look at the alternative, right? So what if they can't make the financing work? Because it's really why the TIF is being presented, is because without having that help on the tax side of things, it may not be financially viable at all. And the alternative is that they break it up into multiple parcels and then they sell it off, and then we just sit here and we hope that somebody will put in something that we like. Or they say, well, why don't we just put through whatever we can afford to put through, and it's going to be a tissue box or a shoe box, just a white building. It's going to be really ugly. It will be with really cheap materials. We're going to now attract cheap tenants who are paying low rent, and then we'll package it together and sell it off to private equity.
I don't think that's fair, because we have zoning and we have planning, and they won't allow that. But we have to look at the residents. I mean, we might do an override and all that. So I understand it's a lot of money up front, mm-hmm. but after the 2 years, if those buildings are full mm-hmm. of residents, he's going to be making a lot of money, and the town's going to be losing it. And yet we're going to be paying for, the emergency that comes, because that's not going to cover that. So there are a lot of, what I mean? I'm just saying, I'm just showing out that.
There's two sides to this for sure.
And I know a lot of investments, they'll want this, because they usually, if a property's value is very less, it looks like a prize to them, because with the TIF and everything, they're going to make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. But I think the residents should really know the good and bad. And I don't want to say, well, if he doesn't get it, he's not going to build there. I don't think that's not fair. I think, we need to come to agreement in the even ground and see. We want to help developers. I mean, that's why we changed the law. Mm-hmm. But for a TIF, I mean, when it's a corporation, like Walmart, you're going to get a huge amount of money mm-hmm. coming back, and it brings in revenue. His revenue is not as much. But mm-hmm. it's interesting to hear your side, and I'm looking forward to hearing Bob talk about it in the questions. But the building is gorgeous. So
yeah, it's gorgeous.
Hope something works out.
Bob, I've had the pleasure of getting to know him a little bit better, and I like that he's a longtime Bridgewater resident. I think that his heart's in the right place here. This isn't somebody coming in from out of town. We know that he wants what's best for our community and his family. And I think it would be a great project, something that they want to hold on to and manage for many years, that they don't want to just build this up, make their money, like you said, and then flip it to somebody else. Right. They seem to be invested in the long term. And for the town, it would be a long-term investment. This one goes in, and then hopefully another developer comes in. And TIFs, it's a case-by-case basis. That's just because we help them doesn't mean we need to help anybody else, because we need to realize that tax revenue, like you said. But we see one successful project come in, and hopefully we could get a domino effect of more projects coming in that make sense for our town and don't overwhelm our system, right? Because
Well,
it's a very nuanced balancing act,
That's
right?
for sure right now. I heard him on Let's Talk. So he was saying he's not going to be like do one and be gone. He wants to do more building. And
Yeah.
so maybe we could come into agreement with like, less TIF because he's going to build like the restaurant next door, and stuff like that. Or we can say, okay, maybe we can get a parking area for him. Maybe we can do a little negotiating to help him and not lose so much money on the tax.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. I like Bob. It seems like I met with him and it's beautiful. So hopefully we can do something.
Yeah, I hope so.
Work on it. So the other thing, we have a resolution for honoring a Purple Heart Month. Have you seen that one?
No, I think this is yours, right?
Yeah, I didn't write it. I did do some editing in it. It was funny because they asked me if I would sponsor it. So I said, yeah. So I started looking up. I know a little bit about Purple Heart, but not a lot. So it's funny because when I started looking up on YouTube, it's called Kid Explorer. It's a funny young kid. I think he's like in elementary school, and he calls himself Broadcast Cal. And really, I learned more about the Purple Heart from this kid than I ever did. So I guess in 1782, the Badge of Military Merit, George Washington started this, and he gave 3 out. So on George Washington's 200th birthday in 1932, the Purple Heart, they made the Purple Heart like out of metal. And I guess they had used purple because it was blood and courage. They probably didn't have the red dye. So, yeah, do you have anyone in the military?
For me, both my grandfathers served in the military, and they both unfortunately recently passed away in the last few years.
Yeah.
And we had a beautiful ceremony at their burial with they come and they bring the service members and they fold the flag and they present you the flag. It's a moving experience.
Yes.
It really, really is. And those are the two men who are most close to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. So this is what they want to do for the month. So I guess March is the Purple Heart month, and they're going to raise the Purple Heart flag. I know they did a fundraiser to raise some for the Purple Heart signs. So they haven't gone up yet, but I think they will be soon.
Yeah, it's great. I think it's a great piece of legislation to put forward, and we've got plenty of Purple Heart recipients here in town, some close friends of mine. So I'm looking forward to certainly supporting that one.
Yeah, another thing I found out that I was surprised, in 1941, they actually had POW soldiers who died while their prison award added to the Purple Heart. So I'll have to look into that because my father's younger brother.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you read that, but you brought up some interesting on this amendment to this property, what they're trying to change the property into residential area rather than a building area.
Yeah, so this is for folks at home, Bedford Street, Winter Street, and Flag Street's on here as well. So as it stands right now, the line kind of cuts right through a few parcels, and Bedford Street, of course, is pretty much all commercial. But then once you get onto Winter and Flag, of course, that's where residential kind of starts over there. So when I'm looking at this map, pretty much everything that's shaded in that would now be zoned as residential by right. That seems to make sense. These are all existing homes. But there's a large parcel of land here, which is, to my understanding right now, currently undeveloped. It's off of Winter Street. So I just have some questions as to what's being proposed there. Obviously, we continue to talk about water and sewer and schools, and we just obviously talked about a large project downtown. Yep. So I just want to know what is being proposed there. I know there's some work going on there as well. So before we amend the zoning by right, which would allow this to be developed, and not that I'm against one or the other, I just want some more information as to what's being proposed here on this property.
I'm glad that you went to look at it because I had questioned it and I had asked Shannon and planning. He explained a little bit to me, but that you went out and looked at it. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that you did. You go out and you look at stuff and you investigate. So that's why I have you on my show, Johnny.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Hopefully we can meet like twice a month and go
sure.
over the agenda. Now, I was told that we were going to get the budget. Have you gotten the budget yet? Have you seen it?
No, today is the first, so I don't know if that was a joke or, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because I saw, I saw it been said, and I'm like, hey, I have not got that yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen an updated budget. We obviously got the preliminary one, and I'm looking forward to digging our teeth in. And I've been thinking a lot about our involvement in this, and we obviously have a great new town manager hopefully coming in, but we as a council need to be really proactive and involved in this budget, and we need to work collaboratively with town manager, but also direct him as to how we think that we should behave, financially here in this town. We should play a really active role in that process. I don't know how you feel about that.
I do. I was looking at the charter, and I think it says in the well, I'm pretty sure it says in the charter that every month we're supposed to be sent the revenues and the expenses, which we aren't. So I've been reading a lot more of the charter about the finance. So then I think I'm going to request that. And I think at the end of the month, we're supposed to be sent the whole thing, expenses and everything for the month. And I think that way we don't sit down and go, well, what happened? So I'm going to look into that.
Yeah, and perhaps we could request that at the town meeting or formally via email. I'd love to see a general ledger every 2 weeks, just so that we could keep an eye on the budget and be proactive. I'm also looking forward to an updated 5-year plan. I think that I know that the town manager's office is responsible for that. I'm not sure if Blythe has finished that yet, but I'd like to see that because we were talking about taxes. We're talking about a potential override. We need to see what our projected revenues are. We need to see what our projected expenses are. We know we have a capital improvement plan. I don't know if you've reviewed that, and I don't want to continue on, rambling here, but a lot of the line items there are designated as debt exclusions.
Yes.
And that's on there, and we haven't talked about it, so we can't just.
I had a meeting with Blythe yesterday. Yeah, yesterday was Monday. So she said she was going to present the budget, and I asked her if she could put all the debt inclusion on it. I said because I looked at that and saw the same thing, and like, what? And the BP is not on there, and needs the fire department because they haven't started yet.
Yeah.
So that's my concern.
Yeah, but BP's coming up, fire station,
right.
And then we have $51 million in roads coming up.
Yeah.
And I think that's in the next 3 years. Don't quote me on that exactly, but I think the next 3 years is about $50 million in roads, and the allocation there is all debt exclusion. So we're looking at hundreds of dollars on people's tax bills, depending upon what the bonds are like and depending upon what those loan terms are like. And then on top of that, we're talking about potential overrides. So we really have to dig our teeth in. It's our duty as counselors, and we really
not that
have
we're
to drive
questioning
that process.
anybody.
No, not at all.
Just like the school budget. I can't help it. You're a business person. I've been a business person. And if I look at with the millions, I have to say, well, show me where it's going. Where's the capital? How many of the teachers are getting, paid? How much staff? It's just normal business stuff. So, I think the first time I talked to the school budget, I'm like, I'm just looking at this as a business.
Yeah.
So it's not personal. That's how I look at stuff. So I think because I think there's going to be like 3 different kinds of overrides that are coming before us, because I think they're going to try to add like the roads on one, or even, and then discuss because I know the fire department, the police department, and DPW all need another employee.
Yeah.
So maybe that's on. So I think we're going to have like 3 different kinds to come up.
Yeah, it depends on how they want to do it. Historically, we've basically budgeted our town budget to be a 60-40 split between schools and everything else.
Yeah.
So if the schools need $6 million, we really should be doing, if we follow the formula, right, which is kind of lazy, but that's how we've done it. It'd be a $10 million override.
Yeah.
Of which 60%, $6 million goes to the school, which I think that's about what they're asking for right now. And $10 million override is going to be at least $1,000 per household. The last I checked, again, that's probably plus or minus. That's on a median
crazy.
home. Yeah, and that's average, right? So if you have a higher value home, you're looking at $1,500, if not $2,000 plus, and that's not just this year; it's every year moving forward, plus 2.5%, plus debt exclusions.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
I don't know. Well, we did our half an hour, so
Perfect.
If there's anything else you want to talk about before we close up?
No, I think that's good. I think this is great.
All right, so maybe we can do right before that. We've done this one, so now we can do another one if you want.
Yeah.
Come on, and we'll keep doing them before the council comes, and that way people will know. And if they have any questions, they can get a hold of us, and we can bring subjects up. But thank you very much, Johnny.
Yeah, thank you so much for
I'm glad
thinking of me.
we can chit-chat back and forth, look at different things. And, you help me see other things that I don't see because the way you look at engineering, which has helped because I don't. I kind of look at the heart and the people.
Yeah.
So I'm learning, so I'm glad you helped me.
Yeah,
so,
thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.